All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Steve Grove here, Commissioner of DEED, and welcome to our roundtable on small business development centers in the state of Minnesota. And maybe more importantly, happy Small Business Development Center Day. This is a day that we are celebrating in Minnesota these extraordinary centers we have across our state that help small businesses survive and thrive. We have Governor of our state, Governor Tim Walz, who's declared this as Minnesota's National Small Business Development Center Day. And so this roundtable is an opportunity for us to really highlight some of the small business owners in Minnesota who've taken advantage of these resources, to learn more about how you yourself might take advantage of these resources, because small businesses are going to play an incredibly important role in our state's economic recovery coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic. So I'm thrilled in just a moment to introduce you all to a great panel of small businesses and small business advisors who we're going to spend our time speaking with today. And I should mention that, before doing that, we'll give a little bit of background on SBDCs. This roundtable discussion, in fact, this roundtable format is a part of a broader series that we're doing here at the Department of Employment and Economic Development, really focused on what the next Minnesota economy is going to look like. And that roundtable series focuses on inclusive economic growth. It focuses on reskilling Minnesota, and it focuses on creating great jobs. Those are really the three pillars that we think are going to be essential to getting this economy moving again. We lost about 416,000 jobs last year on the whole. We've gained roughly half of those back, but we got a ways to go. And we want to make sure that the jobs that we do gain are great for Minnesotans, that they are include all Minnesotans in the opportunity, and that we really focus in on small businesses as a key pillar of our growth in the coming year. Almost half of Minnesotans work at a small business. So, and these are businesses that they line our main streets. They're a part of our everyday lives, and they've also been some of the hardest hit by the pandemic. Small businesses have taken major revenue hits based on some of the challenges of operating a business during COVID-19. They've had to innovate, they've had to evolve, and that's one of the reasons that the governor has made adding an additional funding stream into our small business development centers this coming year to help them serve more businesses through the consulting services that they offer. And so before we introduce our panelists and start the discussion, myself and Bruce Strong, who's the director of our Small Business Development Program here at DEED, are going to walk through just a couple of slides to give you a sense for what these SBDCs do, and then we'll have a good discussion. So we'll project a slide deck here with just a couple of slides to give you some overall framing. For those who aren't familiar with small business development centers, they are essentially brick and mortar and online consulting services for small businesses in Minnesota. We've got 9 different regions across the state that host these centers. Any small business can come in and take advantage of these consulting services. They're funded by both the federal government, but also some state match too. So we work very closely with our partners at the SBA and others to make these centers run. And they're run in partnership with educational institutions and leaders across the state who have been there before. They've had to start a small business. They understand the dynamics of basic business planning and revenue growth, and it's a free resource for a small business to make sure you get off to the right start. Let's go to the next slide. So just to give you a sense for the kinds of consulting and services that our SBDCs offer, it really runs the gamut. It's everything from access to capital and how to get loans to get started. It's doing a financial analysis and assessment of what your business needs and can grow. It gives literacy and financial training and accounting, marketing and research, marketing plan development. There's a feasibility analysis you can go through at a small business development center. There's assistance for startups who are just getting off the ground for the first time. And then that need of a business plan. What makes a good business plan for your industry? What makes a good business plan for the objectives you're trying to achieve? These are the kinds of things that our small business development centers can offer. And it's all free. These are consulting services available to any business who wants to come in and take advantage of them. Let's go to the next slide. So who should consider thinking about using a small business development center? If you've got a good idea, but you don't really know where to start, say you're sort of before having actually begun, we've got some readiness assessment processes that help you take that leap to, take a business from just an idea into an actually a real thing. You may have already started your business and you're at that stage where you're up and running, but boy, you know that having a stronger business plan or understanding some of the fundamentals might make that business more successful. We can help you too. And then if you're an established business, if you're already up and running, small business development centers can maybe take you in a new direction. If you want to explore a new product line, explore a new distribution method, if you think that you need some help in marketing or other components of running a business, you're welcome to use SBDCs as well. We've got that flexibility really to look at every pipeline of small business development in our growth. So a lot to offer there. We'll hear more from our participants in a moment. Before we do, I'm going to turn over to our director of the program here in the state, Bruce Strong. My colleague at DEED will tell us a little bit more about this network, and then we'll introduce our panelists. So Bruce, over to you.
I think you're on mute, Bruce.
Thank you. I am. So once again, thank you, Commissioner. I'm thrilled to be here today and to present a little information about the SBDCs and how critical the SBDCs are to our economy, not only here in Minnesota, but across the entire country. There is an SBDC in every state and every U.S. territory, but obviously the one we're focused on is the one here in Minnesota. We have 9 regional centers, and the slide actually says 15. It's probably closer to 25 or 30 satellite centers at this point. So the bottom line is there is an SBDC center near you. Wherever you are in the state, we have an office near you. Now, obviously, because of COVID, most of our offices remain closed, although some of them are just beginning to open. We're glad to see that happening, but we're still able to do our work remotely. I'm still working from my home, as you can tell. But again, all of our services are available. All of our centers are functional. And again, there is an SBDC near you. So next slide, please. So how many businesses are helped? Again, the commissioner mentioned that we have offices everywhere, and that are that we provide a lot of help to our small business community. In 2020, we put in almost 33,000 professional consulting hours that we provided at no cost. And the commissioner mentioned several times that those services are free. And we like to say no cost. The services are available at no cost to our clients. Oftentimes things that are free aren't really worth much. But our staff, our professional consulting staff, are actually full-time paid consultants. It's just that we pay them instead of having our clients pay them. So that relieves the burden from someone who's interested in starting a business. Obviously, they don't have much money to put forth, certainly not enough to be able to go out and hire a consultant at $100 to $250 per hour. But our services are available at no cost. That's a critically important piece of this whole puzzle. It doesn't cost you anything to come to the SBDC, whether you're a brand new startup or, again, that 100-year-old existing company that's looking to overcome a challenge or become more profitable. Last year, we served more than 5,800 entrepreneurs and businesses. That's about double what our number is because of the COVID pandemic. Our staff worked day and night, literally, to help folks with the PPP and the EIDL loan programs that the SBA was offering to the small business community. And so we are working to try and hire more consultants and create more local partnerships so that we can continue service at that level, at least for the next couple of years, because again, we don't see that subsiding in the next couple of years. Again, in 2020, we created 115 new businesses. That's really not quite an accurate figure. This is counting on, we're running 2 different programs at this point, one that we call our core program and one that was funded with CARES Act funding. We have to keep those metrics separate for those 2 programs. But the bottom line is we help a lot of new businesses get off the ground. We also help them find capital. That's a critical part of what we do. We don't lend money directly, but we know those who do. We work with many of the lenders, and in fact, many of the lenders refer clients to us because they believe so strongly in the help that we provide to those clients in being able to obtain that capital. We help our clients put together the financial projections they need, the pro formas, the projections on sales and revenue, all of the things that a lender is looking for before they agree to make a loan to a small business. So again, we can help a lot in that regard. Those are the types of services that we make available.
That's great, Bruce. Well, we are excited about this conversation. Let's turn to our business owners, and I'll introduce them. I'll say their names and ask each business owner and advisor to introduce themselves and also say a little bit about what you do. Help us understand what your business does and how it's going, and then we'll open up for a broader conversation. So let's start with Susan Tenaik-Stafke. Susan, welcome.
Hello, thank you. I appreciate the offer to be here. You can just call me Sue, that's fine. I'm actually the executive director for a nonprofit childcare center in rural Minnesota. I've got locations here in Fergus Falls, and we have a location in Perham, Minnesota as well. Children's Corner actually has been open this March. This month, we will have celebrated 50 years of providing childcare, which is actually exceptional when you think about a nonprofit childcare center, especially during the last year that we've had. And so that's where I'm located, and that's what we do. And things are okay. We're going to be making a big move shortly into a new location. And so there's a lot going on right now. And I have appreciated all the help from the SBCD that I have received over the course of the last couple of years, and I really appreciate it. So thank you for inviting me.
Great. Thanks, Sue. Welcome. And thanks for what you've done this last year in childcare. No issue more important to our workforce, I don't think, than that. Excuse me. Next, let's go to Natalie Kashama. Natalie, welcome. Oh, Natalie, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
There we
Thank
go.
you. Yes, my name is Natalie Kashama. I am the owner of World Mart, spelled W-O-R-L-D. And it's a ethnic grocery store in Worthington that has become a store on wheels since the pandemic. I am the owner.
Excellent. We'll look forward to hearing more about that in a moment. Let's go to Lucas Hoffman.
Go ahead, Lucas. Yeah, I'm Lucas Hoffman, and Marco's here with me too. We're the co-owners of Inline Motion. Our primary business is stainless steel equipment for the food industry. Our specialty and where our expertise is in stainless steel conveyance. And then we've been in business for about 4.5 years. And last year during the pandemic, we made our shift essentially just about a year ago right now into making a clear plastic face shield for the frontline workers. And actually that went off pretty big for about a quarter last year then too. And then we were able to transition back into some of our core business then too when that market died out a little bit. We've worked with the SBDC and a couple different things. Did a revenue growth assessment with Skip in the past, and then we also worked with them on, well, that was the revenue growth assessment that we did with Penny. And then we also worked with Skip too on, taking a look at financials and understanding, what we had for burdens to growth and kind of get a little bit of a roadmap figured out for how we continue to grow the company.
Great. Well, Lucas and Marco, welcome. Looking forward to hear more about that. We also have some advisors here who work with small businesses across the state in our SBDCs. Let's meet Doug Farforth from Blue Star Power Systems.
Thanks, Steve. How are you doing today?
Good. Welcome.
Good. I think I met you when you came down and spoke to our group maybe about 1.5 years ago down in Mankato at the regional office, I think. Doug Farforth, founder, owner of Blue Star Power Systems. We are a genset manufacturer of diesel and natural gas generators. And we've been in business for about 16 years now. And probably I would say I got involved with the SBA right around 2009, 2010, when we were really in a pretty significant growth mode. And we were struggling to find bank financing, and the local office helped us kind of organize our financials and put together a strong business plan, and we were able to secure financing. And 10 years later, we've continued to grow. A couple years ago, we built a new facility, and we used 504 financing with that for that construction. And so Been pretty passionate about the SBA and the SBDC offices and what they do for small business. And as you said, I've been on the advisory board since it started in 2011.
Great. Well, welcome, Doug. Glad you're here. Let's go next to Diane Quinn, who is also on the advisory board for an SBDC. She works at Beyond Kitchens. Diane, welcome.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm Diane Quinn, and I'm the owner of Beyond Kitchens in Rochester, Minnesota. And we are a general contractor that specializes in remodeling. And we have been in business for over 25 years. When I initially started the business, SBA was very involved in me getting the confidence to start the business, as well as a few years later helped with some advanced classes in operating a business and all the details with a variety of people, lawyers, accountants, and whatever, which was amazing to be part of. And since it was a class setting, seeing other businesses within the southeast Minnesota community, and some of those people are still friends. So it's been an amazing opportunity to learn a lot more and to contribute to the community.
Well, I love these stories, Doug and Diane, of folks who started businesses, had some success, and are giving back with advice. That's great. And then our last member of the panel today is Kwame Osafo-Addo, also an advisory board member who works at Legal Corps. Kwame, welcome. Kwame, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, my name is Kwame, and I own Kwame's Law Firm PLLC in Minneapolis. It's a consumer rights law firm. And so typically I would represent individuals against companies. And I'll say COVID hasn't changed much. I was able to transition pretty quickly online. And a lot of the clients have also found that to be rather convenient. They don't have to drive downtown and pay for parking. So I haven't seen too much of a drop off in terms of clients and such. And that's about it.
Well, that is good to hear, and we'll look forward to hearing more about Legal Corps too. So welcome, everybody. Happy SBDC Day. Let's start with our small businesses. Sue, Natalie, Lucas, Marco, tell us about the past year that you've had. And many of you in your introductions talked about kind of some of the inflections that you had to make given the pandemic. Help us understand how you have pivoted or evolved your businesses and what roles the SBDCs might have played in that transition. Why don't we start with you, Sue?
Well, do you have a bit of time? It's been a year, right? As many of you can understand and know, the childcare business we struggled for years, not just us, but the whole childcare business in general, simply because of lack of funding issues, the inability to pay staff, a wage that we'd like to pay them, relying on tuition only for us nonprofits that we truly are a nonprofit. So when the pandemic started, of course, we had to make some big changes. We did, because we were limited to how our group sizes. We had families all leave because they were going to work from home. We had them pulling children out. I had many staff that left simply because they were concerned and worried, because our job is all contact. There's no virtual childcare. So everything is direct contact. I prioritized essential workers, which is what we were asked to do by the state of Minnesota. I did everything they asked, and so we prioritized essential workers. My buildings, we had to do a lot of extra work with cleaning, sanitizing, purchasing products. We had to change how we drop off and pick up children, where the parents are allowed and not allowed, the masking. And then unfortunately, 2 different times in 2 of my locations, we did have to quarantine for the 14 days. During those times, and people don't always realize, but we lost each time almost $16,000 every time we closed down, because we lost all the tuition. I did not charge parents Well, we closed and I continued to pay my staff the entire time. So my staff who were working did not lose any wages. And that was a commitment that myself and my board made when all of this started. And this is even before we knew we were going to get any money from anybody. We already made that decision. So I also work with Skip, who I adore and love. And he and I have worked together for a few years off and on. And he was always instrumental in sharing with me, here's this opportunity, he was pointing me to the PPP, pointing me to any of the grants, and certainly the state of Minnesota came through with some emergency grants for childcare, which is quite honestly, between that and the PPP, it's the only reason that we're probably still standing today, simply because we took a very large loss. And so that's how I was able to adjust and pivot. I run 3 buildings, and so everything that I had to do, it was tripled. Everything was tripled for me. So there you go.
No, it's extraordinary, Sue. I mean, you and every childcare business in the state are going to go down as some of the true heroes of this pandemic. And frankly, as you probably saw recently, Minnesota was named the #1 state in the country for children during COVID-19. We know so many children have suffered, but it's really due to the heroism of you and others that made that kind of recognition possible. And we're glad that SBDCs could help. Natalie, you mentioned in WorldMart, you went from kind of having a brick and mortar to putting things on wheels. Tell us about that whole transition and how you kind of thought about that from a business perspective.
Yes, I had a storefront and also I worked full time. So during the pandemic, my staff member could not be there because there was no childcare, and of course everybody was scared at that time. So I had to run back and forth after work, to the store and then my family, because this was not part of the plan. So I had to put a sign, at the door. People should call me, and I run and I say, this cannot be working. And at that time, that was when all light was on my business for the community, because I'm serving the East African community, of course, and some people from West Africa. So at that time, that was when they needed help, because people were afraid to go to South Dakota because they say that the cases were, going up there. And in the cities, if you were not a business, it was hard to access items. You can only get 1 or 2. So it was really hard for people. Fear and transportation issue. Some people relied on their relatives or friends for transportation to work or to do groceries. Now with the pandemic, nobody wanted to give a ride to anybody. So that's where, I really think I had a team. It takes a team to run a business, and I had a great team. I call them my diamond team. I have a lot of them, a lot of business development centers that helped. And one of them, especially from the SBDC, Bernie Berger is her name. Oh my goodness, she was an angel. She was an angel for me at that time. She gave me a lot of advices, pointed me to the right direction. I work with I can name them, I can start naming them, but it took a team for me to get here. Bernie would be there to encourage me to get resources. If I didn't get them, she would say, it's okay, you can find another one, and she will point to others. And if I find them, she helps me understand the business language, or those PPP loans questions. Some of them I didn't know how to answer them, because we are small business and I was new into this world. So the SBDC has been really, really helpful, I would say. I wouldn't have known. It's like a dictionary for the business, like to understand details and information. So then the idea came to start delivering. People can pre-order, and then I delivered to curbside, and I closed the door of my business. Now people pre-ordered and I delivered. So with that, it helped me not to keep a lot of stuff in store that, people were not buying. Only needed items I purchased, and that's how my business grew. So it was like a silver lining, transforming my business into a store on wheels, really.
Wow.
So yeah.
Fascinating. Yeah, it's, I talk to business owners every week, and this, obviously so many people taking hits that are going to be tough to recover from, but others, the efficiencies that some of these constraints provide kind of lead to new opportunities. It's part of the innovation that you see in our ecosystem. It's impressive, Natalie. And I love that you and Sue both, starting a business can be kind of lonely, and growing it and advancing it and changing is tough. And you talk about your SBDC consultants by on a first name basis, almost as if they're partners in your effort, which is kind of nice to hear. Let's go to Marco and Lucas. You talk about transitions. You all completely shifted what you produced based on the pandemic. Talk to us about that decision and how that how that unfolded and what it was like.
Yeah, so first of all, I want to say I love hearing the stories and the success and everything because it's very motivational and inspiring for us. I mean, this is really what America is all about, and we absolutely love it. As far as our story goes, it was year 3. Things were starting to finally go right. We were starting to, increase our production, increase everything. And then all of a sudden, COVID hits and everything went dead. And all of the big players were not buying equipment anymore. All the big capital projects had been put to a halt. And there was a couple of months there where we were struggling, like seriously struggling. And we were trying to plan out how are we going to keep the staff, how are we going to keep paying everybody and keep going. And well, we had some extra time because there wasn't a whole lot going on at the shop. So we decided, well, you know what, at least we maybe can help the community a little bit. We know there is a short supply in PPE, and we have the machinery here to make, and our obviously design ability to design something and put it out there, donate it locally a little bit. So we ended up making a Facebook post saying that we were able to make some face shields and we were able to donate a few hundred. It was kind of like, let's do something good for somebody at least. And it just blew up and everyone was messaging us, and we didn't even realize how big of a need there was until we did this. And within, I want to say, 2-3 weeks, probably, we were making in the thousands of them. And it went from, a few hundred donations to thousands of them donated and thousands of them sold at the same time. We ended up actually providing all the face shields for the VA hospitals in the Midwest. So there was Fargo, St. Cloud, and then obviously everywhere in Minnesota and North Dakota, South Dakota, I believe Iowa as well. And so we were able to, thanks to that project, obviously we were able to cruise through 2020. And then now finally in 2021, things are starting to normalize a little bit. Our regular business picked back up and we're able to kind of go back to what we do and what we have been doing. But yeah, definitely an interesting year.
Wow, what an amazing story. So in that transition, were you able to keep your employees? Were you able to keep your revenues at a level that was steady enough? I mean, talk to us about the business implications of this, because it sounds like a complete transformation, at least a short-term transformation.
So our regular business doesn't require as much stuff normally. And during this, the production of PPE, it was actually very labor intensive. So we ended up adding about 10 people temporarily for a span of a few months there, and just making face shields. And it was actually very tough to do because at the same time, there was a lot of people that were unemployed, but there was all of the additional funding for the unemployment money, and a lot of people didn't want to go off unemployment to start a temporary job in any way. So that was another challenge that we had to overcome, but luckily we cruised right by it. So
wow, remarkable. I guess for all of our small business owners and leaders here, talk to us about just what kind of consulting needs you find yourself having, and what role having an SBDC in your market provides you. How do you think about using that resource kind of on an ongoing basis as you build your businesses?
I can maybe jump in here if I'm on.
Oh, sure. I don't think Paul, you might have come late to the conversation. We should introduce you. I think, Paul, you're an SBDC advisor. Is that correct? Who works over in Painesville?
Painesville, thank you. I'm on the state SBCD board. And I really got involved. I'm sorry I couldn't come on until just now, but I would say about 10 years ago, it was shortly after my dad died. We are a 100-year resort business out on Lake Coronis here in Painesville. And really, we're just kind of, I was in a transition stage of what was going to happen with the resort and what would my involvement be. Most resorts, as you probably know in Minnesota, they're dying off, and principally because property values of lakeshore are almost double what the business value of a resort is. And so you've seen a huge attrition in number of resorts. On Lake Coronis itself, there used to be 14 resorts back in the heyday, and now there's just ours. But I was, looking at what do we do for the future, and how do we stay as a business and explore that option as a business versus ending. And anyway, long and short is I had some great counseling from the local SBCD out of St. Cloud, and I'll never forget that counseling. It was just so helpful to me to help set a course of where I was going to go or where this property would go into the future. And since that time, I've done over $2 million of additional expansion at the resort. We were just easing into a year-round operation at the time, and now we are fully into a year-round operation. But the insight that SBCD it was a volunteer counselor who worked with me, but the insight that he provided was invaluable. And my son now, who's 16, is very interested in the resort, and we're hoping we're going to go into a fourth generation here.
Wow.
I mean, I can't say enough good things about the SBCD. And that's why when an opportunity arose for me to get on the statewide board, I would jump to the opportunity. And I've learned a number of other things through that, but I'm just grateful for what they do. So that's my piece. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I mean, as you can see, if for those watching, it's Minnesotans with experience giving back and advising other Minnesotans who are getting started. That's kind of the beauty of the program, is it's that kind of lived experience. Let's hear from a few of our other advisors. Maybe Doug, we'll start with you. Blue Star Power Systems, successful company. You've built it from scratch over there in Mankato. Talk to us about some of the issues that you help advise businesses on, and how you think about the SBDCs as a resource for small businesses in your area.
Yeah, so I think one thing I'd like to maybe touch base on a little bit that Paul said was just, even in addition to the knowledge and the information that the SBDC office can bring to you, I think you also said it yourself, Steve, that starting a business is kind of a lonely endeavor. It's hard in the beginning. You're really fighting for attention from whether it be customers, suppliers, credibility, all things that I guess I would say I probably take for granted today, but not too long ago I was in that position as well, and I think just as much as the information that they can provide to you and help you with a business plan and maybe teach you how to do your accounting so the bank can understand it and things of that nature, it's the confidence they give you that look, there's other people out there doing this as well. You're on the right track. You can do this, and I think that's maybe underlooked sometimes. And I know me and Bruce, the director, have had those conversations. I think it's helpful sometimes too for businesses maybe that are in some trouble. That don't know where to turn. And I think the SBDC offices can be a great resource for them. For us, from the COVID perspective, it was obviously scary for everybody involved. We are considered an essential business, and in that we manufacture products, and so we never really shut down. And our manufacturing processes are such that it requires all of our employees really to be inside the building. And so we, took a number of steps and put a lot of precautionary measures in place, but it was still challenging the first couple of months. And I guess in a roundabout way, we were fortunate that we had this new building that we could spread out in and keep that social distancing and all that good stuff. But I think as we went further down the road and got over the initial kind of scare, I think I looked at it, and I think our employees looked at it like with the fact that there was limited outside opportunity to socialize. This was kind of the place to do that, and they got some enjoyment out of talking to their coworker and doing things inside our building that normally maybe would be reserved for an after work activity or on the weekend. And so I think by being able to stay open, at least in our building and industry, it long term it was helpful for the employees. So, and I realized not everyone was able to do that, but we were happy to be able to facilitate that, I guess. So
yeah, very cool, Doug. Very cool. I think you speak well to the sort of the community sensibility that's so important here, and the motivation, and just connecting with others on that same journey, because every entrepreneur, every business owner is going to hit ups and downs, and having a support network and somebody to go to for advice is just it's vital. Kwame, I wanted to go to you next at Legal Core. There's a unique partnership between Legal Core and the SBDCs, right? And maybe you can talk to us a little more about what Legal Core does in terms of giving legal advice to businesses, and how you play a role in that for merging small businesses in Minnesota.
Most definitely. So yeah, for those of you that haven't heard of Legal Core is a nonprofit legal service provider. So it's a nonprofit organization that has volunteer attorneys that would provide business law assistance to entrepreneurs. So they would help, doing anything from, drafting contracts to reviewing contracts to providing small business advice. And this SBDC has a unique relationship with Legal Core in the sense that Legal Core provides legal services. So I serve as a legal consultant, and I assist small businesses with, pro bono legal services. So I do that on behalf of the SBDC. And unlike with Legal Core, so with Legal Core, there's income requirements. So if you are coming directly through Legal Core for legal services, there are income requirements that you have to meet to qualify for those services. However, through the SBDC, there are no income requirements. So you could pretty much, if you had a lease or, a commercial lease that you needed reviewed, you could have the SBDC, you could, get me to assist through the SBDC, and, there are no income requirements for getting that done. And so I've been able to interact with a lot of small business owners like yourself, discussing various aspects of running a small business, legal aspects of running a small business.
Yeah. No, it's so interesting. I think those legal questions there's so many others. Diane is an advisor to small businesses in our state. What are the kinds of questions you get from small businesses? What are they coming for help on to you and others in the network?
In many cases, I don't think they understand that it's even available to them, and that it's at no cost. I think that is wow, you're kidding me. This is available to me. I'm very active in the local builders association. And I have to say that it has been amazing for me to be able to sit in a board meeting or a meeting there, and you get conversation about, different problems, whatever. And I have to say that is another source of support for me as well. But that so many people weren't aware that, hey, this resource is out there and it's in our community, and aren't we lucky? So I think that's been something that I've been able to share within the building community here in Rochester.
No, that's helpful. I mean, I tell you, we face this issue for so many programs at our agency where it's like you've got this amazing resource and people don't know about it. And I'm curious, you know, Sue, Natalie, Marco, Lucas, to bring it back to you as business owners, what should we be doing to make sure people know more about SBDCs, or how can we better spread the word about these resources? And what advice do you have for us as state government on how to get this right?
Before we jump into that, Commissioner, I just want to make one quick point. Up until just this last year, SBA actually prohibited us from marketing our services. And so that's part of the reason that a lot of folks don't know about us, because we have not been able to do some marketing. I'm thrilled to say that the SBA has just changed their position on this. They've lifted that prohibition. And in fact, granted us some money under the most recent CARES Act program, specifically to do some marketing. So we're chomping at the bit. In fact, we're working with the DEED communication staff. We've kind of laid out a whole marketing campaign that we're just about to launch, and we're really thrilled to do so. So, but you're exactly right. I'm curious. You know, it's always hard to figure out how folks find us. And what are the best avenues? How can we reach out to those small businesses to make them aware that the SBDC is here?
Natalie, do you have some thoughts?
Natalie, you're muted, but I'd love to hear from you.
Yes, in my situation, for instance, I learned about your services through some of the like Southwest Initiative Foundation. So if you can partner, continue, I'll say, because you're already doing that, continue to partner with those, you know, business development centers, and that's how they refer people. Like I was referred to the legal court, for instance. You know, I needed help with to understand how I can transition from sole proprietorship to LLC, for instance. Another time I used the legal court for questions such as, can I add a partner in my business? Someone wanted to join as a partner, and what were the consequences of that? That was the most helpful advice I got from there to make my decision whether I should move on or not, and I didn't. So that was really helpful. But I would say Chamber of Commerce, if they can also share with business owners, like this is the services, those are the free services available, or those are services available. I don't know if they're currently doing that, but if they're doing that, they should continue to do that so people know it's available out there. And when people open their business, again, I don't know if it's available. Is it authorized by the on the website, the Secretary of State, to have those information as well? So it's very helpful. Like for somebody, many people I spoke to, because before I started my business, I interviewed businesses, small businesses, and see, you know, what are the struggles and everything. I came to realize many people don't have resources, and yeah, it would be really good to continue to work with these other entities and the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Great, thank you, Natalie. Go ahead.
Oh, so for us, it was, as we started, we really didn't know anything about it. It was brought up to us by another business owner, Dean Hutchinson. I think he used to own Spectrum Aeromet over in Fargo. And so then we started talking to Bill Martinson. He's SBDC, also Enterprise Minnesota, and he's a huge resource for us. One of the greatest things is the fact that somebody mentioned it at the beginning of the conversation, is the fact that, oh, it's a free service, so it must not be that good, but that's not the case. All of these people are in there and are doing the work, and you feel like you have somebody in your corner, and you feel like it's somebody that you can trust and really doing the best for your interest, and which is absolutely great. And for us, one of the things that, like, business owners always work with banks. There's always a bank involved, and if our bank was more knowledgeable or more tied in with SBDC and brought us in and told us about the different services and the different things that we could learn about, we could get help on. That would, that would have been a big help from the start.
I think someone was, if you could put your phone on mute if you're not speaking. I think we have a couple of phone lines coming. That's really helpful to hear, Marco and Lucas. Sue, thoughts from you on this? And I also want to hear from, there's some reporters on the call. If you have a question, please just raise your hand and we'll go to you whenever we see it. Use that little hand raising function in the platform here. I guess for the small businesses watching and considering using these kinds of tools, what advice do you have for small businesses in our state looking to grow here, and maybe how to think about the SBDCs in that journey?
So I'll just say that the reason I even found out about it was because actually one of my board members is a bank president. And that's how I found out that this service was even available. He was very familiar with it. So I would absolutely agree with the fact that if more banks understood or knew more about it. And because our bank president that I work with did know, that's how I was tied to getting this assistance. So that was super helpful for me. And I would agree, Chamber of Commerce would be a very good idea as well. And because my business is certainly very different from a lot of businesses, the child care industry is definitely different than all businesses. It might be very helpful to even have information available when we get licensed. When we get licensed, we have a ton of checklists of things to do. So somehow get information about this to the licensing division that can, not that they're going to promote, but that they could include it in some kind of a packet to let us know. I would never have known about this opportunity had it not been for my board member. I'd never heard of it before, and I'd been doing this for 13 years before I even heard of this. So just a couple thoughts, and I can tell you that's how I did it.
No, that's helpful. I mean, thinking about those points of entry that you're already working on. Bruce, did you want to share a thought?
No, I just wanted to thank Sue and everyone for their comments. It's so heartening to hear about what's happening out there in the small businesses, and again, the changes that are taking place. Obviously, last year change was off the charts, and it's great to know that the SBDC can change along with you, and you don't have to just come to the SBDC once for one thing. You can come back to us over and over again for different topics. Many of our clients, we've worked with them for many years, and so we have a long-standing relationship. But as your business changes and evolves, it's always a great idea, as Doug mentioned, to come back and have a sounding board. Marco said the same thing. It's so great to have somebody who really understands your business and understands what you're trying to do, to be able to come and bounce ideas off of and get support from, get good, rational advice, so that we can help you make those changes and do the things that are necessary to keep your business alive and profitable.
Yeah, well said, Bruce. Again, Sam or Michael are journalists on the line. If you have any questions, please do raise your hand. We'll go to you. I'll just open the floor in those final 10 minutes and maybe just ask others to share ideas or thoughts we haven't heard about yet. Our big question right now as an agency is, how can we have as many small businesses get created and be successful in the coming year? Because that's where all of our job growth is going to come from. So any advice you have for us on how we should be focusing our attention on that front would be most welcome. I'll just open the floor to whoever would like to share. Paul, I saw you have your hand up. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I'll just mention, it doesn't hurt at all to be talking with the various trade associations. I'm involved with our Hospitality Minnesota organization, and I've even talked to them in the past about what SBDC has done for me. And frankly, I think you'll get a barrage of calls. And every business is always looking for ways that they can improve. And I think that's what this organization can do. So through their associations, I think is a good way to go.
Great idea, Paul. Thank you.
thoughts or advice from others on how we can make this a state where small businesses are going to thrive in the recovery from COVID-19?
Can I ask this wonderful group of people who are in front of me right now? And it might be part of what you're asking, but at the same time, I'm asking as a nonprofit child care center who's trying to do everything that I'm being asked to do, is to let people know, where are those funding sources? Like, where are those funding sources for people who want to grow or want to stay alive? Is there, common announcements that are sent out? I mean, how does that work? As somebody who is going through a huge change right now, we are moving in 1 week to a brand new building. And this all started pre-pandemic. So all of my lease, everything was all signed before the pandemic ever started. So we are moving and we're going to be co-located with our school district. So we have a very unique early childhood center that we're doing, which is very unique to this entire region. And I guess for me, it would be helpful for people like me to know, where do I go if I'm looking for funding? Where can I find more grants? How do I know who's going to support me in this kind of an endeavor that I'm doing? So that would be helpful to know.
Yeah, thanks, Sue. Bruce, maybe I'll turn it to you to answer that question. It's a great one, and there are a lot of resources available, but sometimes they're hard to find.
And they truly are. There are so many almost, and with the relief packages that the Congress has passed as a result of the COVID pandemic, there's even more. I mean, it's hard for us to keep up with the changes and with the new sources of funding that are available. So I just want to ask, do you work at all with First Children's Finance?
I'm very familiar with them. I am, and I actually worked with them quite a bit.
Great. We just recently.
I am not looking for a loan right now, simply because that's not what I can do. But I am looking for grant dollars or other resources, partnering with businesses, things like that. And I'm looking for kind of that one place where a person could go to look, to say, here's a list of resources that you could try just to look at. So, yeah. But yes, I'm very familiar with them. Actually, I've spoken at a lot of their presentations.
Oh, great.
So I would offer this maybe as a thought, and we can take more of your advice further. We are revamping our whole digital infrastructure for the front door of our state's website, not only for economic development more broadly, but particularly for small businesses. So we do have to fix this and make it a lot easier for you to navigate resources. There's a lot available, to Bruce's point. Great, but we need to do a better job of making this friendly for businesses, and we're committed to doing that. So I'm glad you raised this question. It's just another reminder for us to focus there. We got about 10 minutes or so left. Diane, let's go to you for comment. Oh, I think you're on mute.
There we go. One of the things that we had talked about as a board was also succession planning. Succession planning up until COVID was a big thing, with about 60% of small businesses thinking about a plan to either for the owner to retire, or sell the business, whatever. I believe that's still happening. And a great opportunity for younger people perhaps to get into the business world within an established company. I think that's something that still needs to be looked at and pushed.
That's a great point.
That's a great point, Diane. And again, we're continuing our efforts, and obviously COVID has pushed that even to the next envelope. For some businesses, it's stalled their plans to transition. For others, it's greatly accelerated their plans to transition. Right. But succession planning is clearly something that's not going away, and something that we're still very much focused on. So again, thank you for that comment.
Marco, I see you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I did. This was actually a point that we discussed previously too. We're still a fairly new business, and the startup phase of our company is not very far off. It's fresh in our memories. And some of the biggest struggles we had, it was especially on year one. And I'm just going to rattle some numbers, but we made we made some progress. We paid absolutely nothing to ourselves, try to put everything back into the business right away. And we know there are sources where we can get additional funding to keep growing the business. But what isn't there is more leniency from the state and the federal government on, everything that was left in the company, we had to pay off and give it to the government for taxes, essentially, which as a new business in the first couple of years is really, really difficult. As you grow and you establish yourself, you can build up those rainy day funds, and you have those, you have the cash flow to manage all of that. But in the first few years, that becomes really, really difficult.
That's helpful feedback, Marco. I appreciate that. You're right. When you've got more of a foundation, it's a little bit easier to pay those taxes than when you're making every penny stretch in those early days.
Yeah.
Natalie, did you want to raise another issue we haven't talked about yet?
Yeah. Well, answering to the same question, how to keep business growing, I would say just the example of the stimulus check. They gave the stimulus check to a household, different household, and of course there's some eligibility that requires, but they didn't ask who's working, who's not working, who has savings, who doesn't have savings. But when these, CARES Act came, there were so many restrictions for small businesses. Of course, you have like Marco said, like rainy days, but that can only help you to survive. Of course, my business did well, and it was good that there were some funds that were given through the city that helped a lot. But if you don't get them, how would you continue to grow? There were some restriction, like if you had lost 10%, well, you might have not lost 10%, but you have bought some stuff from me. I closed the store. I cut down the overhead costs. That's why I was able to survive and continue to fly. But then if those rainy days come and you're telling me that I'm doing great, so I'm not entitled to getting those funds, then how am I going to maintain this business going? So there should be, if the SBDC can advocate for that when there's care grants, when it's available, to make something available just like the stimulus check. It's given to almost everyone with some little restriction there for people who are making certain income. But it was given without any, without a lot of restriction. That's what I would like to see happening, for small businesses.
That's helpful, Natalie. And we know there's so much coming in that stimulus package that we'll have to discuss in terms of distributing that funding and getting it out to small businesses. As the governor said, small businesses have been hit harder by this pandemic than any other sector of our economy, and that's where our support needs to focus in this recovery. I will say, in addition to that $1 million that he is setting aside to help small business development centers grow across the state, we've set aside $6 million for technical assistance and incubator support for early stage businesses, particularly BIPOC-led businesses, and another $50 million in rescue grants, essentially, to those businesses really hard hit by this pandemic. So those in hospitality and beyond. And then, of course, we've got our Launch Minnesota program, which helps technology-based startups across the state take off, as well as the Angel Tax Credit is a part of this package as well. So a whole host of things focused on early stage companies. Again, we really believe they're going to be the leaders in our recovery. And I want to just thank you all for joining us today. Bruce, before we wrap, any final thoughts from you on SBDC Day for the group?
Well, again, I just want to thank everyone for taking part today. Again, it's so heartening to hear of all your stories and to hear what's going on. Remember that the SBDC is in fact here. We're easy to do business with. Simply, contact us online, mnsbdc.com. It's that simple. Just log on to that website. You can sign up for services. You can find out more about our program. And again, we're here to help you, and thrilled to be able to be a part of your success. So thanks again for being here today.
Well, thank you, Bruce. Thank you, everyone, for the discussion and for spreading the word and for your time today. Best of luck, and let's regrow this Minnesota economy for everybody. Thanks all.
Thank you, Commissioner.